Hey, hi everyone, welcome. Um, so we're really excited to be here together with all of you. It's Earth Day and we're doing this in a different way than we normally would because we don't get to be in person because of shelter in place. We're not getting to take like the kinds of actions that we normally do or go to rallies or things like that, but we still think that it's a great opportunity to come together as a chapter and as people who are doing this work together. And in talking about it, Julia and I thought that it might be an interesting moment to sort of, um, do a little bit of like personal development, a little bit of like skills development, and like highlight what we consider to be one of the most like foundational tools of doing organizing and campaigning and political environmental work, and that is storytelling. And that's also storytelling is also an opportunity to hear a lot of stories and hear why people are doing this work and be engaged in that way. So my name is Jacob Klein. I'm the regional coal organizer, and with me is one of my coworkers.
Hey everyone, my name is Julia. I use she, her pronouns, and I work at the SFBA chapter as an organizer doing work with land use issues. So everything from housing and transportation to sea level rise work.
Thank you. So first, we just want to go over some best practices for Zoom. We all have different levels of use and familiarity with it, so this is just something that helps us work the same way. Mute yourself when you're not speaking. We have a pretty small group, but that just sort of helps reduce some of the background noise that can happen. You can choose gallery view to see like everybody on the side of the slides, or speaker view just to see the speaker. Use the chat box to ask questions. We'll answer them as we have time, but feel free to throw them out there. Oh, Julia, I think we were going to share this. I'm sorry, I've been talking.
Yeah, no, that's okay. If we get Zoom bombed, which means that somebody comes in trying to disrupt the meeting, which we don't expect to happen because you guys all got your links emailed to you, we're going to try to get them out. And if not, we'll shut down the call and restart. But like we said, this isn't really something we're worried about happening today. And if you're dropped from the call, just wait for a minute. Sometimes people's internet goes in and out. See if you're pulled back in. And if you're not, just use the link again to readmit you, and we'll let you back into the room.
And we already said this, but one more time, the call is being recorded. So if you don't want to be seen, go ahead and take your video off. We're going to do a quick introduction of everybody, your name, your pronouns, and the city you're in. So I'm still Jacob. My pronouns are they, them, their, and I am in Oakland.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm in Berkeley. And I'll pass it over to Vicky.
Yeah, my name is Vicki Hoover, and I live in San Francisco. Yeah.
Patricia, you can go next.
Okay, my name is Patricia, or I usually go with just Pat, nice short, Lamborn. And my pronouns are she, her. I live in Alameda. Yeah, that's it for now, I guess. That's
All right, Bridget.
Hi, I'm Bridget. I'm in the North Bay and Mill Valley. She, her, and thank you for doing this.
And Heidi, if you could come off mute.
Hi, I'm Heidi. I live in San Rafael, she, her, and yes, thanks for doing this.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you all being here. I also just want to introduce and welcome particularly Vicki Hoover, who's going to be sharing her story later and is a really long-time activist with Sierra Club, and I'm really grateful to her for agreeing to be a part of this. So we're going to start by Julia sharing her story of why she's organizing, and I'm really excited for that.
Before I do, Donna joined us.
I think just about everybody knows someone that's affected in some way or the other.
Anna?
Hi, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was on mute. I'm doing multitasking Zoom Earth Day calls.
Okay. Would you mind taking one moment to introduce yourself with your name, pronouns, and where you're calling from?
I would be happy to. My name is Donna Knapp. I use she, her pronouns. I'm calling from sunny Sacramento, California. I'm so happy to see you all.
Hey, Donna.
Hi, Vicky.
Oh, here's a hug. Yeah.
Donna is another staff member.
Donna's one of my favorite. Oh, sorry, I can't mute.
Donna's one of our other staff members. She is a digital maven and helpful with everything. Somebody else was maybe going to join. Julia, do you want to go ahead and start, and I will manage everything else?
Sure. Okay, everyone. As I mentioned, my name is Julia, she, her pronouns. I am 24 years old, and I grew up in a pretty environmentally conscious household. I feel like I have had some grasp around the need to take care of our environment for most of my life. My dad taught me how to compost when I was young. He told us to take military showers where we would get in and rinse and then lather and then rinse to conserve water. I helped him install solar panels on our roof. So I kind of had known while I was growing up that the earth was in peril. I wanted to pursue a career and education in the environmental sector. So I went on to study environmental policy and science in my undergrad. And I was lucky enough that coming out of college, I was able to find a position at Sierra Club at the SF Bay chapter, and that really aligned with my education and also my passion for climate action and organizing. And I had been working in this role for months, and I was feeling really happy and fulfilled in this local work that we're doing here at the chapter. But I kind of my perspective on organizing and the amount of action that we had to take really shifted on one very particular day. I remember sitting at my desk at work one day and getting an influx of emails, all with the subject line IPCC report. And this was a couple months into my time at Sierra Club in October of 2018. And IPCC, for people who don't know, is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And this is when this landmark report was released from the IPCC that basically said science is saying we have about 12 years to slash our global emissions by more than half, by 55%, in order to avoid climate catastrophe. So after kind of taking that in and reading that headline, I was like, okay, I've seen plenty of bad news around the climate. I understand that, it's no longer just climate change, it's climate crisis. But when I kind of started to dig into the report, I was like, oh, this is huge. This is different. This changes the course of life on Earth. And it really overwhelmed me, reading what climate catastrophe meant, which was, famine and disease and climate refugees and natural disasters beyond anything that we can imagine right now. So I got up from my desk and went on a walk. And I remember coming back to the office that day and feeling pretty numb for the rest of the day, just not being able to work or focus and kind of being afraid of any more of those emails coming in. And when I got myself home at the end of the day, I remember I couldn't even make it to my room. I just the weight of the world that was kind of crushing on me, caused me to lay down on my kitchen floor, and I just let out a good cry. And I had never felt so hopeless about something that I care so deeply about. And my mom was the kind of person who would always buy me those plaques you'd see on the at the dollar store with inspirational quotes, or those little trinkety bracelets that just were meant to brighten your day and inspire you. And she had given me this bracelet when I was growing up that said, "Live the life you have imagined." And I can't remember who the quote was by, but in that moment, I felt like the life I had imagined for myself had been stolen from me. At the time that I read that report, I was only 23 years old. I thought that I would go on to have a family, have kids. I thought that maybe I would explore other careers outside of the environmental sector, maybe go back to graduate school for another interest of mine. And after reading that report, it became really clear to me that this is going to be the fight of my life, and it's going to affect every aspect of my life. And there is no such thing as a carefree childhood anymore. And just in one moment, what I thought my life would be had completely changed. And to pair that with the frustration I felt with this being huge news and other people not hearing it the same, or it wasn't speaking to them as loudly as it was speaking to me, I felt this crushing weight on my shoulders of, I feel like I need to do everything about this, and I also feel incapable of doing anything. So I fell into a couple months of feeling pretty defeated about the news, and it was finding a community to organize with at the scale that I felt. So not only organizing during the day with Sierra Club and working on these local issues, but I started organizing with the Sunrise Movement, which is a movement of young people who want to address this crisis at a national scale and really push for systemic sweeping changes. So in finding a community of people who believe that hope is an action and we gain hope by doing something about these issues that we care about, I really was able to pull myself out of that place and feel empowered to make change. So that's the story of what I do. I do both at the chapter and in my free time. And I really appreciate everyone for listening.
Thank you, Julia. I know for me, as a being in the same age group as you, that sort of that existential dread and sense of like not having the future that we were like sort of promised or led to believe that we would have really resonates with me. That's something that I struggle with as well. So if anybody else has any things that they want to share that resonated with them from Julia's story, please feel free to do that in the chat. We're going to go ahead and move into the next part, but please feel free to share or offer gratitude to Julia for sharing her story. So we view this tool, this storytelling, as a really fundamental tool for organizing, as really one of the basic things that's involved in doing this activism work that we do. But why? Why does storytelling matter? It's how we build power. It brings people together. It like links common ideas. It builds up that sense of why am I engaged in this? And that is what drives us into doing this work. It's how we organize our communities. It's this tool that we use. It links people together. It creates shared ideas. And that helps us band together and work in coalition with people who share those ideas. It's how we build relationships. Storytelling tends to be vulnerable. It tends to be, it's what helps people come together. It's not just the facts, it's what makes it, personal. And that's how we are able to connect with like-minded folks and get them on board and work together. It's how we inspire people to take action. A good story can get people to do all sorts of things. It shifts the way that they operate and light something up inside of them. And it speaks to the heart and not to the head. A good story is working on that narrative that really hits that emotional center. It's not just the facts. It's not just a write-up, although those are all really important. It gets inside of people and it gets them where it really matters. It gets them involved at their core in that really emotional place. And that's where people really operate from. And then it also helps connect the dots. Why does this big thing connect to me so personally? And why do I have a personal connection to this big thing? It helps create these lines and these webs.
Thanks, Jacob. So as mentioned, storytelling is a really powerful tool for all those reasons. And we wanted to workshop this with you all because we want to, think about how we can use this tool effectively. So storytelling is really impactful in one-on-one conversations. Someone might not completely understand where you're coming from or why you care about a specific issue, but when you share your story and they're able to resonate with you and relate on at least at the base level, how you feel about it, it's a really powerful way to bring people into a larger conversation. Rallies are a really great place to use this tool. I know that there are a lot of rallies we have here in the Bay Area, and there's often space for people to share their stories and get up and speak. And the reason why storytelling is so compelling at a rally is because we're rallying for our community, and we're helping to link this issue to how it lands with people, and also for people who are just kind of on the sidelines and want to engage with what's happening. It really helps pull people in and makes them interested in what's going on. Storytelling is also an effective tool when you're lobbying elected officials. So whether you are delivering public testimony at a city council meeting or meeting one-on-one or with the staff of an elected official, you're providing context for how a constituent feels, how someone who is affected by the decisions of this person feels, and it does evoke more from other people, and it creates more sense around what we're fighting for when they're able to see how it like impacts an individual. Storytelling is also a great tool in writing. I'm sure a lot of people have noticed when they're reading things, it's generally more entertaining to read something that's a little bit more anecdotal, or it pulls you into a story. So if you want to communicate in writing what you care about an issue, sharing your story is a really important way to bring people in, and it can even be in letters to the editors or op-eds, a great place to share that with people. In video, it's a great place to share a story. A lot of people can see it. Right now we're doing a lot of story sharing through video because we can't be in person, but it's also a great way. People get pulled into conversations by seeing a video here or there. And it's often what makes people stop and watch something is not hearing facts and figures or a bunch of information spewed at them. It's because they're hearing someone's story. And then in meetings, so we talked about this as an effective way to build our relationship. So whether it be a meeting with people who you're working on an issue with, or people who you want to work with, or that you're getting to know, sharing why you care about an issue is a really important way to connect with others and build those relationships. Great, so now Jacob is going to take us through how we form, I'm going to take us through how we form a story. So there is no exact formula for this, but it's important that when you are thinking about sharing your story, you want to make it personal, because you're best able to speak to what you know, but you don't want to necessarily make it private. You're already making yourself pretty vulnerable by sharing how you feel about something, so that's kind of the general guideline. Make it personal, but it doesn't have to be private. And keep it short, 3 to 5 minutes. I realize that my story might have went on a little longer, but in order to hold people's attention and really get to like why you're sharing your story, you don't really have to go on and on. And it's helpful to talk about overcoming a challenge or really leaving people with something inspiring, because they see the positive result of why you're motivated to share what you're doing or what you want to do. And you don't want to leave people feeling helpless. You want people to be plugging into something that you find inspiring or that inspires you to action. And then I think one of the most important things about really practicing storytelling is trying to describe how you felt in your mind or body in the moment that you're explaining. So stories are meant to evoke emotion, because it's how we connect with each other. And it's really difficult because it makes you more vulnerable to kind of share how you felt in your mind or body, but it also that's the point where people can resonate and connect with you. So it is a really important skill to employ when you're sharing stories, and it takes practice, but it's definitely a really important way to connect with others and to make your story as powerful as possible. So now that we've gone over why storytelling is important and how we use it and how we form one, Jacob is going to share their story, and then we will have y'all break up and share yours. So I will hand it over to Jacob.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, so I have not been at Sierra Club for very long yet. And before I was here, I was doing organizing in other various capacities and had been working at nonprofits for a few years, but in other issues. I organized mostly within the Jewish community, of which I'm a part of, and I was organizing around LGBTQ inclusion, criminal justice reform, and other anti-racism work. And for me, that was really about, trying to bring in certain values to a community I really care about and that I'm a part of, and also to leverage certain accesses to power and privilege that I have and that we have to really work for causes that I believe in. I hold solidarity to be a very dear value and is very much underpinned by my Jewish identity. But how does that, lead me to be doing environmental justice work at Sierra Club? I was born and raised in San Diego, and like much of California, Southern California is prone to wildfires. And so that was sort of a fact of my life growing up. Every few years there was a fire. But I remember when I was 11 or 12, there was a particularly big one, the Cedar Fire, if you're familiar, any of you are familiar with it. It was one of the most destructive fires in California history. And I have very clear memories of it. School was canceled for a week. The sky was a shade of yellow that I have never seen since, and that I'll never forget. When I went to the grocery store with my mom, she made us wear wet washcloths over our mouths because masks weren't really a part of the conversation yet. And my parents told me to pack a suitcase because if the fire jumped a particular road, we would have to evacuate. I remember my biggest concern was which stuffed animals I was going to take with me. Fortunately, we did not have to evacuate, and our house was fine and we weren't harmed. But that really wasn't the case for so many other people. Many, many people lost their homes, and it irrevocably changed their way of life. Now I live in Oakland. I've been here for about 6 years, and fires are an experience I'm unfortunately very familiar with here, as I'm sure you all are as well. We are getting inundated often with the toxic air that's coming in from all of these fires, and we're not even getting the worst of it necessarily, but it really changes, how we think about air, that this thing that we need, that we breathe, can be harmful to us, that like our very homes are precarious. And this is an even more severe reality that many people are facing. Like they lose their homes, they like can't breathe because of the smoke. And we can really see this as a direct result of climate crisis and of the fossil fuels industry that really is in many ways really responsible for that, turning out greenhouse gas emissions, putting out particulate matter, releasing other hazardous substances into the air. And that is imperiling our ecosystems and is destroying people's health. There are people who are living on frontline communities around refineries, around oil wells, around shipping terminals that are having to deal with these like toxic chemicals and materials constantly. And it's leading to people developing asthma and other respiratory illness. It's leading to disorders from birth for children, other childhood issues. It's shortening people's lives and reducing their quality of health. And for me, that's just so unimaginable in a way that we can just be like letting this happen. And that this is just sort of like a fact of life for so many people, when we have the power to change that, and we have the ability to change that, and we know exactly what's causing these issues. And so for me, that's what is really calling me to do the work that I'm doing, which is trying to get coal out of the Bay Area Delta region, trying to really, push back against the fossil fuel companies that control so much of our communities, and create a life for people where they can breathe easily and don't have to worry about their family's health, and that can believe in a rich future that isn't bound to these industries that don't care about our health, and instead look towards sustainable energy that cares for the environment, cares for ecosystems, and cares for people.
Thank you, Jacob, for sharing. I really resonated with the tone that you used to say unimaginable. I feel that passion behind like how unimaginable all of this is. And I welcome others to offer resonance in the chat, and we're gonna move forward with the next portion of this.
Looks like somebody's joining us. So we are just about to do some practice. We're going to go into breakout rooms. You're going to be paired with one other person and get a chance to talk about this. And so your prompt is to tell a story about a moment that got you involved in environmental organizing. And when we say organizing, we don't necessarily mean like you planned an entire campaign, you like did an entire rally yourself, you like did this like big thing. It can be something as simple as, why are you recycling now? Why do you compost? What got you involved in Sierra Club? Why did you sign on to some petition that you happened to see? Just some moment that really sort of like shifted something for you and really sort of refocused yourself as somebody who wants to be taking some kind of action towards the environment. So some guidelines. You are going to have about 10 minutes total. That's going to be 3 to 4 minutes per person to share your story. So please keep an eye on the time. And then you'll each have 1 minute to reply to each other and sort of share what resonated with you in the ways that Julia and I have modeled. When you're doing this, this is a great time to flex some of those active listening skills. Don't interrupt. Just take in. Don't be thinking about what your comment is going to be afterwards. Just really receive the vulnerability that's being offered to you. And then when that time comes to respond, think about what feelings you've identified with yourself while listening to your partner's story. What inspired you? Really just find that like core reaction and share that. And then we'll come back together and we'll get a chance to hear Vickis story. If we have time, which I don't think we're going to, we'll ask somebody else to share a story, and then we'll have some wrapping up conclusion resources and stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and break you out, and we'll send the prompt to you again while you're in your breakout rooms.
All right. Everyone should get an invitation to join their breakout room now, so hop on in.
Okay. It says join breakout room.
Yeah. Oh,
Hi, everyone.
There we go.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories with each other. I hope it went okay. I know that it can be kind of challenging, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a chance to try this out. So Vicky, if you would go ahead and take over, I would love for you to share your story with us.
Well, I already did that, you know, in the breakout room, but I can do it again.
Sounds good.
For this is now for more people, but I explained about how when I first, as an Easterner, growing up, who had grown up in the East, when my husband and I came to California in the mid-60s as a young married couple, we were all excited about living in a state that finally has real mountains. And we didn't quite know how to go about it, but we soon heard that there's an organization called the Sierra Club that leads good trips to the mountains. So I said, oh, we should join that. So we did. And the following year, we went on our first Sierra Club national outing up into the Sierra, a family burro trip. And it was idyllic and just what we had hoped for. And by the fall, we led annual High Sierra trips that were first.
Oh, Vicky, it looks like we've hit an internet connection issue. I'm so sorry about that. I'm gonna give it just another chance to see if it works itself out. Sometimes it does.
Sometimes I feel like if I jiggle my own settings, it'll like jiggle hers. So
I know. Okay. I think we're gonna have to put a pause in that for now, which I'm really sad about because Vicky has a really good story. Julia, if you don't mind helping me troubleshoot, we go ahead and maybe do another story, maybe just review sort of our what's next plans, and if Vicky is able to come back on, she can wrap it up.
Well, does anyone feel called to share their story with the group? Even an abbreviated version?
I don't know if this is a great story, and the second Vicky comes back, but I wanted to thank, let's see, oh, there she is, try.
I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I got disconnected.
It happens every once in a while. I'm glad that you're back. Do you want to pick it back up?
Well, I just want, okay, I'm so sorry. Years more, but then suddenly when my kids had grown up, I was divorced. I moved to San Francisco. I joined the San Francisco Bay Chapter's Wilderness Committee, and
okay. I think we're gonna have to put a pin in that again. That's too bad. Pat, do you want to continue with what you're? Oh,
I don't know what the issue is.
Maybe try turning off your video and just keeping the audio. There might be like a bandwidth issue, and we can listen to your story.
Okay, let's turn off audio. I do that by stop video. Okay.
Okay, let's see how that goes. Thank you for trying.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, can still hear you.
This is not working.
I can hear you, Vicky.
Okay, all right, let me go on then. Anyway, I suddenly learned that all these wonderful, undeveloped, natural, idyllic places I had enjoyed selfishly for all these years came about because many people worked hard over many years to pass legislation to keep them undeveloped. And the Wilderness Act, when I learned about it, it was really mind-blowing. And all of a sudden I thought to myself, you know, my life has changed now. I have time. I could do something to help make sure that people in the future have more places to enjoy, such as what I did for so many years. And I've been working at organizing on several environmental campaigns ever since then. But it just, I guess I started in the Wilderness Committee at a good time when there was the brand new campaign that was just getting going, and I got in from the ground floor, was the California Desert Protection Act campaign. And then there was forest planning that was just starting. So I had all these wonderful opportunities just freshly laid out for me, and I took advantage of them.
That's amazing, Vicky. Thank you so much. I've talked to you a little bit about this before, but I like that sense you brought up of sort of like there's this world that you know about and like you're familiar with, and then you suddenly realize what's made that come to be, and understanding like what like the work that was put in, as you said, and all of like the efforts that people have been putting forward so that we can have a world that we can enjoy and be proud to be a part of. Does anybody else have any responses that they want to share? Maybe just go ahead and unmute yourself since we're going to be wrapping up shortly anyways.
I just wanted to thank Jacob and Julia. I think this is a really great thing to teach people in storytelling. We use that a lot in my organizing career. So appreciate that you created the PowerPoint and everything. So thanks. I have to leave soon, but it was great meeting everybody.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
I wanted to offer to Vicky I resonated with the excitement you expressed when like finding this thing to join that matched your interests and really going for it.
Yeah, it was like a revelation that my 18 years of backpacking the Sierra Nevada sort of passed through my mind like a hurried, speeded up movie film, but all with a brand new perspective of what I was just learning. It all set. So that's what I had those 18 years of backpacking for, was to bring me to this moment.
That's amazing.
That is wonderful.
Oh, Donna, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that from a digital perspective, in terms of storytelling, it just so you know, like the data on how powerful like personal storytelling is, when you send an email or even a social media post or any kind of outreach that has a personal story that's well crafted, that's brief and impactful, it increases your engagement rate, and so your open rate and click-through rates and like event attendance, things like that are higher when you have a personal story attached to the ask, basically. So I know that personal storytelling is effective when you look at the numbers.
Good.
Thanks for sharing that, Donna.
Yes. That makes it all seem all the more worthwhile.
Right.
Although you don't want to keep
like
it,
monetize it, kind of almost like that, to quantify it, but it really is effective.
but it should be short, right? Like 2 or 3 sentences, because otherwise people won't even read it.
Exactly. Yeah. Brevity is key. It's hard, right? Difficult when you're telling your own personal story, right? Like you just want everyone to understand the whole details, but yeah, brevity is key.
Yeah.
Brevity is also good in meetings. When you want to explain something to somebody, you don't have to go on and say, oh, then we did this and then we did that. Oh gosh, people, yes, sorry to.
And talk about brevity, I just put something in the chat about some actions that you can all take that were related to my story.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you. So we just have some sort of like what next steps that you can take for this, and that is to wait. Julia, did you want to? Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so we did this workshop, and Jacob and I have been talking about doing some more workshops with organizing skills, because I think we both realized that in both of our different organizing backgrounds, we both really value storytelling and want to be teaching more valuable organizing skills. So the next step for all of you after attending this is just exercise using storytelling. It's especially relevant now with the current issues that we're facing. Everyone has a story to share about what's going on right now, how it's impacting them, what kind of response they feel like we should be having to this. And it's a really important time to be connecting with people through our stories. And while you're exercising that, practicing with friends and family is a really great place to start. It's often most difficult to be so vulnerable with those people. So, I mean, it depends on the person. I find it to be difficult to be vulnerable with friends and family, but with us being more connected, at least virtually, with these people, it could be a great opportunity to practice storytelling and use it in your organizing campaigning, whether that be in writing.
I'll pick up whether that's in writing, whether that's in your calls with people, whether that's in meetings that you have with folks. It's a really, really awesome tool. I think that Julia is the one who's operating our presentation. So the next point that would be coming up is we're thinking about doing some other workshops like this on other organizing skills that just sort of like, beef up your repertoire, people's repertoire. So if that's something you're interested in, we'll be following up with this, and you can let us know if you'd be interested in being a part of that. You can always reach out to either of us by email. Email addresses would be up there. But it's my email address is jacob.klein, Klein, at sierraclub.org. You'll get an email from one of us. And you can follow up with that. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for putting my email address in the chat, Donna. I'll go ahead and drop Julia's as well. Feel free to connect with us about the issues that we're working on, or just connect with us in general. happy Earth Day, and thank you for all the work that you're doing.
And thank you for
fun.
all you're doing and continue to do.
Thank you.
And you and Julia, who are both young people, are very inspiring to somebody like me who has more than a few gray hairs and grandchildren who are older than you. And we hear so much about the younger generation being screen addicted and having no connection with nature. To see young people like you guys is truly gratifying and heartwarming and inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. I can't wait to give you a hug again. I look forward to seeing you.
I know. A real hug really works best.
I know. All right. Take good care. Thank you, Jacob. Good to meet you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Bye now.
And all. Good to meet everybody else. Okay. Bye. I guess we just push the red button here.
Yeah.
You want to leave the meeting? Yep.